Is seller financing your land a good idea? Yes and no. Okay, guys. Hey, I'm Brad with NorthGeorgiaLandBuyers.com and ArborView Properties. I'm a real estate investor and developer, seller finance extraordinaire. I've done lots of seller financing deals. I've bought deals on seller financing. I've sold deals on seller financing. I know a thing or two about it, and land and developments and single family houses and all of the above. I've got experience in all of those realms. So today we're going to talk about seller financing your land. And is that a good idea? Well, it can be, or it can be a bad idea. It really depends on who your buyer is at the end of the day. So for instance, if I buy a property and I sell that property on seller financing to an end buyer, I'm going to vet that buyer. For instance, I actually just sold a property. She's moving in today. I sold a property today on seller financing, and she's moving in today down in LaGrange, Georgia, south of Atlanta. And basically, I vetted the buyer. So I verified her employment. I checked her bank statements. She had to send me copies of her tax returns. I had to look at, the last however many years of bank statements. I needed to see cash flow. She also sent me, she was receiving some Social Security income. She sent me copies of that. I verified that. I checked to make sure the deposits and the accounts verified. We did the same thing in a mortgage. If you go get a mortgage on a house, they do the same thing. They're vetting you as a buyer to determine what your risk level is. I do the same thing, right? I vet my buyers that are because I don't want to take the house back. Like, that's the last thing in the world I want to do. Now, there are legit people out there who their strategy is to kind of act like a shark lender and lend things and then take them back and do it again. I think that's kind of a sleazy business model. I don't operate my business that way. Kind of like the buy here, pay here used car lots. You can make a lot of money doing that because you end up taking the car back, 30, 40% of the time, and then you turn around and sell it again. I don't agree with that. I think it's kind of sleazy and slimy, so I don't do that, but other people might do it. So you got to think about your end buyer, right? If your end buyer, also, here's one thing. We require down payments of a certain percentage from all of our buyers when we sell properties, because that is their skin in the game to show us that they can do this. The more money they're willing to put up and commit, the more likely I know they are. Also, like I said, I check their bank statements, I check their income, I do employment verification, all that stuff, and make sure that they have money, have jobs coming in. Right now, they could lose their job and they could default. And if they default, I also secure everything by the property. I file security deeds and promissory notes on the properties. And if they default, based on Georgia law, I can foreclose on that property, right? That's what protects me. That's my protection. Now, does it cost me money to do that? You bet you it does. It costs me thousands of dollars because I have to hire an attorney to do all of that for me because I buy everything in an LLC, and an LLC cannot represent itself. I have to hire an attorney to represent the LLC, and then I have to hire an attorney to go through the foreclosure, and that costs me thousands of dollars. Do I want to do that? Absolutely not. I don't want to do that. So how do I stop myself? I vet my buyers ahead of time to make sure that I'm doing and picking the right buyer. Does it work all the time? No, sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay, right? But most of the time it does. So I'm vetting my buyers, right? So you're like, well, Brad, you're an experienced investor. Like, of course you vet your buyers. Like, I'm just an average Joe. I want to sell my property. How do I know? Well, first of all, use the down payment thing. If you're posting a property for sale and you want to sell it on financing, say, I want X amount of down payment and no less than that. And if they can't come up with that down payment money, then tell them no. Because if they don't have enough cash to put up, then it's not worth it, right? So don't waste your time on tire kickers, right? We'll post properties on seller financing all the time, and people will say, well, I don't have, whatever you're asking, but I have this today. Would you take this and then I can pay you the rest later? And then, you let me move it. Like, no, absolutely not. There's a couple circumstances where I've made minor exceptions to that, but they had to pay me back within a very short period of time. Very, very short period of time. In fact, the one today, where the lady moved in today, she didn't quite have all of the down payment money up front because of a financial situation and whatever. I'm not going to get into the details on that. But I said, okay, that's fine. Put your money in escrow over here and let it sit in escrow. And then when you get the rest of the money for the down payment, we'll close, right? And but again, I analyzed her finances, so I knew that this wasn't like this was a legit situation. It was just an exception, right? So I made an exception to my process, but I didn't close and I didn't sell it until all of that down payment money that I had requested was sitting in the escrow account. And once I knew it was in the escrow account, cool, we're good, we're ready to close. And that's what I did. So, or what I've done is I've actually leased the property to them for a short period of time until they can come up with the rest. And then when they can come up with the rest, then I'll sell it to them on financing. But they still have to give me a non-refundable deposit so that if something does happen, then they're not wasting my time, right? So you need to do things like that. You should really consult a real estate attorney about that. If you don't know about that, they'll be able to kind of put some things in your contract that will protect you for those things. Now, seller financing your property can be a viable strategy, right? Let's talk about the benefits of seller financing here. So obviously, seller financing is considered an installment sale. In most cases, it's an installment sale in the eyes of the IRS, which means that you can defer your capital gains on that over time because you're only paying your capital gains on whatever you're receiving in that given year. So let's say you finance a property to seller finance a property to someone for $99,000. You could do 3 payments, or maybe over the period of 3 years, and over the 3 years, they have to pay you $33,000 each year. You could do that, and you're only going to pay capital gains taxes off of that, which I'm making these numbers simple. They're a lot more complicated than this, but you're only paying income taxes on the $33,000 each year, not the whole amount. Now, I'm not going to get into, there's some caveats to this. If you're considered a dealer, which I am, and I have to do things a little differently, you may want to talk to your CPA about that because you may not be able to do that. But most normal average people that just own one property and they're selling them, they can do this. This is an installment sale in the eyes of the IRS. And you're only paying taxes on what you're financing over time, what you earned in that year. You're not paying taxes on the whole amount. Now, I mentioned, like, I'm a dealer. The IRS makes me pay taxes on all of it up front, even though I won't see the rest of that money for years. How crazy is that? How stupid is that? You, the average taxpayer that doesn't know anything about taxes, if I buy a property for $100,000 and I turn around and sell it tomorrow for $125,000 on financing, I owe the IRS taxes on $25,000, even though I may have only saw $1,000 in money this year from it. Isn't that crazy? Does that make any sense to you? No, it doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's stupid, and we need to talk to our Congress people and get that fixed, because that's ridiculous. Why should I pay taxes on money I've never even received? Crazy. That's my rant for the day. All right, so let's talk about more about taxes here. So you can pass that on, right? You can pass those, or not pass it on, but kind of kick the can down the road, and you're only paying on that over time. That's a great tax advantage. Also, if this was like a rental property, and we're talking about land here, but let's talk about a rental property, right? Well, you don't have to deal with tenants if you sell or finance it, because you're not the owner, they're the owner. So they're in charge of it, and you're just the bank, right? You're just collecting the money, and you're getting principal and interest payments over time. What are the downsides of seller financing land? Well, obviously it pays off eventually, and then you don't get that income anymore. So that's kind of one downside. Now, there's some creative strategies, substitution of collateral and stuff, but that's kind of like really advanced level stuff. We're not going to get into that in this video. But you could continue to receive money over time by doing substitutions of collateral, and that's a crazy strategy. But again, that's way too over our heads here in this video. All right. So seller financing. Why should you do it? I think you should do it because it's a great way to make money over time, because you're actually going to earn more money. If you charge them interest, you're making that interest income over time in addition to the principal as well, so you can make more money. I love that strategy for buying land. I buy land on seller financing every chance I get, because what that does for me is it allows me to offer the seller more money for their land, and it gives me more of a runway, especially if I'm doing development on the land, because I know that in, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I'm going to have all of these properties sold and paid off. I've utilized this strategy in the past where we'll finance it. I'll pay the seller a certain amount of interest per year. Yeah, does it cost me extra interest? Sure, it does, right? But it prevents me from having to come up with all of the cash at once. Plus, the seller doesn't have to pay capital gains on all that money this year. They can spread those capital gains taxes over the next 5 years. And then it gives me runway and it gives them runway and everybody wins, right? So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, I'll be happy to chat with you a little bit more about it, learn more about it. Like I said, we buy land and sell land on seller financing all the time, but you do need to vet your buyer. Now, in your case, if I'm buying it from you, well, you can kind of tell that I'm an experienced buyer. I know what I'm doing. So my likelihood of default is much less than some random guy you don't know anything about, right? So, I'm experienced in this business, and also you got to protect yourself. Make sure you're always secured by the property with a promissory note, and we're in Georgia. You have a security deed and a promissory note. Make sure you always have those instruments in place and they are recorded with the county, because if your borrower goes against that or anything, or you're the borrower and your lender goes against the terms of that, which has happened before, right? We had a nasty situation a few years ago where the lender tried to pull a fast one. They said, it's all in writing here. And they still tried to pull a fast one, ended up going to court, and the judge said, nope, this is what it says. This is what we're doing. This is why you did this document. And get this, they made this person had basically lost a year of time while this was in court, and said, because this person said, well, the person owes me X now in interest and penalties. And the judge said, nope, you never should have brought this case to court. He only owes you what the balance was as of a year ago, not what it is today, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You had everything in writing. He followed the rules and you didn't, and you have to pay for it. And it was a glorious moment. I was so proud of the judge, because this lady was just not doing. This is why we have laws, people. Like, this is why these things exist, and this is why you get everything in writing, and you put everything in writing. When we do everything is in writing. Everything is in a contract. And if you violate the contract, you have to go to the court system for that. So anyways, I know this video was long. I love seller financing land, whether I'm buying it on land or selling it on land. If you want to learn more about it, you can go over to NorthGeorgiaLandBuyers.com. Fill out the form there, and a member of our team will be in touch with you ASAP. Thanks for checking out this video. Go check out all of our other videos about land over at NorthGeorgiaLandBuyers.com or on our Arborview YouTube channel. There is a playlist there for land and all the land videos. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm Brad. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.